Namaskar, hello and a very warm welcome viewers. You're watching this special presentation of Sansad Television, Samvaad. And in today's conversation, joining me is a very special guest, Union Law and Justice Minister, Mr. Kiren Rijiju. So welcome to Sansad TV and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's begin talking about the most crucial issue, the pendency of cases in India. There are 21 judges per million people. The pendency has crossed 4.7 crore cases. While I would understand that this pendency is chronic in nature, it is structural, but it's high time that we have ambitious plan in place to cut judicial pile-up. What's the way ahead?
This is one of the major concern for me and everybody, because the pendency, when I took over as the Minister of Law and Justice, the pendency was just above 4 crore. Now it is nearing 5 crore. The amount of new cases coming up, it's literally piling up. And the judges are working very hard. Each judge in India, whether you're a Supreme Court judge or lower courts, each judge is disposing of 40 to 50 cases every day. Nowhere in the world a judge has to handle so many cases in one single day. Despite that, the numbers of new cases coming up is double in numbers. So the challenges is very, very tough for all of us, but we can't just ignore the reality, we can't run away. Now there are various means to tackle the pendency at various levels. Government intervention is important in terms of providing the support system and to also ensure that more judges are appointed. But that is just a small fraction of the issue. The real issue is how to handle those cases and how to dispose of the cases. First of all, we have to use the technology to ensure that the procedural aspects because of which the pendency takes place, because cases are not just that the judge can just decide on one single sitting. There are agencies, there are evidences, there are procedures, stakeholders, the witnesses, the victims, various issues are there. So it takes long time to handle a case in India. These can be tackled by lots of interventions, especially technology intervention, as well as some kind of coordination amongst all stakeholders. I think from our side, Modi government has been very proactive from the day one. So the pendency of the judges are less from our side. But the problem is the pendency of cases in Supreme Court and High Courts are just fraction of the total pendency, is mostly in the lower courts. The lower courts are totally the domain of the High Court, administrative control as well as the state government. So we are pushing the state government to be proactive, and I am personally asking the state government as well as the High Courts. I have been talking to the Chief Justices of the High Courts to deal with the situation, appointment of the judges as well as various other steps which are required to be taken. Now, besides all these issues, we are also looking towards alternative dispute resolution mechanism. If we see most of the civil cases which can be easily handled by mediation, arbitration and some other means, why every case has to come to the court? So that is why we are coming up with the major amendment in the arbitration laws, and we are bringing the mediation law. I am going to table mediation law in the winter session of the parliament. I wanted to table in the budget session or the monsoon session which just got over, but because of the lots of recommendations from the parliamentary standing committee have come up, so we need to revisit some of the provisions. But overall our approach is very proactive, and I can say as Minister for Law and Justice, there is nothing left from our side to be done. We are doing everything that is possible, but all the stakeholders have to come together. Finally, the judiciary itself will have to be ready. Yes. And sorry to say that Indian judiciary is used to a system which is well established and they feel comfortable. It's very difficult for the judiciary to adopt new means, but they are very open to technology and other means of dealing with issues. But when it comes to reforms within the process of appointment or various other things, judiciary will have to open up themselves.
Well, sir, you talked about amalgamating tech, introducing the cases in the country. Now, the moot question is that, of course, we've been talking about blockchain, we've been talking about artificial intelligence, but what about the allocation of funds? Do we have sufficient allocation and then the utilization for implementation of such tech interventions?
Yes, for all purpose to ensure the digitization of the entire court procedures and the documentations and everything, it's very important. We are giving full support. And for the judicial infrastructure, see, primary responsibility of creating judicial infrastructure for high courts and lower courts rests with the state governments. But central government comes out with some substantial amount of support. Now, we have recently in the cabinet, we have outlaid a total of 9,000 crore for judicial infrastructure in the lower courts. And that is a huge amount for next 5 years. The issue is the amount which we have been releasing are not fully utilized.
Exactly.
So, most of the funds which are not utilized are due to various reasons, which I have also gone into the details why the state governments and the agencies are unable to use. And high courts have their own limitation. They are private. I mean, like, I have privately talked to many of the high court chief justices that the money being sent by the central government is pending, not being utilized, and money is being just returning back. That is not a good sight. So, the proactive support from the high courts are extremely important. I want that the 9,000 crore which central government has made the allocation must be utilized fully. And in the recent conference of the chief ministers and chief justices of the high court, we have taken a pledge that we will do everything to utilize all those huge amount pending, as well as there was a very important decision being taken. The chief ministers and the chief justices of the high courts will work in close coordination, and they are supposed to constitute a working committee where chief minister will be there, chief justice will be there, and important functionaries to ensure that the judicial infrastructure issues are dealt on regular basis.
Right, sir. And as you're saying that you're open to all the suggestions, so the Chief Justice Designate, Mr. U.U. Lalit, says that there should be a mechanism to actually impose cost on frivolous litigations. As the law minister of the country, what is your take on that?
I think the proposal or the idea mooted by Justice Lalit, who is the Chief Justice Designate, is very interesting and it's practical. Courts are supposed to deliver justice, and the court must be open to everyone, but court cannot be a platform to be misused. For example, public interest litigation. Now, PIL cannot be converted into private interest litigation, and if there are cost imposition or some strict adherence of certain provisions, I think if the Supreme Court itself come out with certain proactive steps and some very positive suggestions, government will be very happy to support.
Okay, I think that's a very big commitment that you're making. But as you've been talking about access of justice, that no court should only be for the rich, it should be equally open for all, and their use of regional languages, that's a very important factor. Of course, you'll have to get all the stakeholders on board, but do you think that we can see that in near future?
Absolutely, the judiciary itself has to take a very important call on that. I have already suggested to the Chief Justice of India as well as the High Court Chief Justices that please ensure that the debate, the argument, everything is done in such a way that the advocates or the clients do not feel handicapped due to language. See, as I am talking to you in English, it's okay. For convenience sake, as a medium of communication, that's fine. But why would somebody have the advantage because he speaks better English? Some of the advocates in Supreme Court and in High Courts also, they take advantage of their better command over English in handling more cases and to get better justice. That is something which I have taken serious exception to. A lawyer, doesn't matter he speaks a regional language or English, he must be given opportunity to speak on anything in a language which he is very comfortable in. We have also given suggestions that there are some high courts which have been permitted to use Hindi language as an optional language like UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan. So there are some other high courts in India which also should now take proactive steps to use the vernacular respective regional language. In India, we have many important languages like Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, Gujarati, Punjabi, Bengali, Assamese, Oriya. These important languages, besides being recognized in the constitution in the 8th schedule, they are also ancient. That needs to be promoted. If the languages are used in the courts, that is a great platform, whether it's Nepali or Manipuri or Dogra or Bodo. These are important languages of our country. These are our heritage. So why not use the regional and local languages in the courts? But for that, the courts will have to come forward with a proactive suggestion. We are ready to provide all kind of support. For translation, no problem. These days, with the use of technology, there is provision of instant translation. Instance, there are commentary, you can run a parallel commentary. The translation is so fast. So that is why it's time to open up the courts and give equal opportunity to every Indian, be from any community which has a minuscule language group or a big language group. Why only English be the dominant language in the court?
Right. But also talking about the legal structure in the country, making it more people-centric, the government is working on changes in the IPC, the CRPC and the Evidence Act as well. When do we see these comprehensive changes? What is the latest on that front?
One of the most important objective and vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji is to ensure that the laws are made easy for the common man. Any kind of rules, regulations, government orders should not be an obstacle for the common man, meaning thereby there should be less compliances burden on the common man. So all the laws must be made in such a way that it must ensure speedy delivery of justice. It's a good news that Home Ministry is working on a very comprehensive criminal reforms, be it IPC or CRPC or Evidence Act. Law Ministry will definitely be always there as a critical part of the entire process. So Amit Shah ji has already written letters to all the stakeholders, including the state governments and the members of parliament. Now these efforts being carried forward by the Home Ministry will bring fruitful results. After a long time, a comprehensive criminal reforms action has been initiated, and I am very, very sure that this will take a concrete shape soon. And after that, I think as the call of the time, our legal system, our provisions of the law, especially the criminal laws, will be as per the need of the time.
All right, sir, let's shift focus from pendency of cases and access to justice to UCC. Now, several BJP ruled states have already started the process of implementing the Uniform Civil Code. But the moot question is, when would the centre take the lead and bring in an enabling legislation, and why is it the need of the hour for the country?
Well, politically, Uniform Civil Code is a commitment, and I think every Indian would welcome it. One country, one law, one country, one system. This is something nobody should raise any objection. The state governments can also take their own steps, and the state legislature can also make certain laws at their level. This is in a concurrent list. Now, when they have an option, they will certainly do it. Some states have already taken certain steps. About central government's action, I don't want to make any commitment right now, because this needs lots of consultation, lots of discussion, and there are certain steps. Because why I am not giving a deadline is because even for a good decision or a good action, if you just make announcement without doing much of consultation process, some people just create controversy out of that. I don't want to generate any unnecessary controversy or debate on the Uniform Civil Code, which is so important. And many judgments are there, Supreme Court, High Courts, they have already given direction, or they have sought answers from the government about what steps we have taken. And certainly we will go back to the court and make our positions clear. But everybody knows BJP party's commitment, and everybody well understand our government's commitment also. We are there very much with the issue, and you all will come to know at right time.
All right, sir, we'll wait for that. But as you talked about one nation, one law, the government is also pushing for one nation, one election. So after 5 states that we saw elections recently, now we'll have elections in Gujarat, Himachal, then next year Karnataka. The Election Commission says that it is ready to hold simultaneous elections, but the constitutional amendments would be needed and Parliament will have to bring in a legislation. So basically the ball is in your court.
Yes, I agree with that. I already had discussions with the Election Commission because Election Commission briefs me, my ministry, and Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji has already made a very clear and call, one nation, one election. You know, every year we have 2 phases of election besides the by-election. You know, the early part of the year you have a group of states going for election. Later part of the year another group of states going for assembly elections. Then you have general elections every 5 years. So this is taking lots of constraint on our resources. It drains out the energy. If every year we are going for 2 major elections in every year in some part of the countries, you know, because of the elections, there are restrictions, there are compulsions, and the political parties are totally involved in the election. And due to elections, there are, you know, election model code of conduct, then all developmental works are put on hold. Lots of problems which we see on daily basis due to elections in some parts, in some states of our country. I feel it's something everyone has to think about. I hope every political party comes out with the support to realize the vision of Honorable Prime Minister to have all the elections of the country, of all the states put together and hold together. I hope someday we will realize it.
All right, sir, let me end this conversation with 2 political questions. One, of course, that there are allegations that the investigative agencies are being selectively used or misused. Your reaction to that? And the second, of course, the debate in the country on freebies.
See, first of all, the constitutional authorities and agencies. There are many bodies which are constitutional, there are many bodies which are statutory, there are many important agencies which execute the decision of the executive. Now, if the agencies do not act, how do you take care of the problem? How do you tackle the challenges? Now, if agencies work simply just because it is inconvenient to someone or some parties, they cannot raise objections, they cannot condemn, or they cannot bring down the institutions. For example, Prime Minister Modi ji is a crusader against corruption. This is something which is well known. We are adopting zero tolerance against corruption, and Modi ji has already said there will be no relaxation in our campaign against the corruption. Now, in 8 years of our tenure, I have been part of Modi ji's Council of Ministers from the day one. In last 8 years, there is not a single charge against a minister or the ministry. Everything is so transparent and everyone is very much accountable. In the past, when there were no social media, when to capture certain actions through digital gadgets and all were minimum. But you remember those Congress days, earlier government, every day there used to be so much of news about corruption, some minister committing some corruption somewhere. It used to be regular, and everybody used to say that the biggest problem of our country is corruption. But since Modi ji took over, not a single case of corruption. Nobody can, even our fiercest opponents cannot raise their fingers against Modi ji and the government in terms of corruption. We are corruption-free government. So, when the agencies go against corrupt people, nobody should raise any objection. And why should somebody fear if he is innocent? Now, this political, language which we keep hearing, that agencies are being misused and they have been targeted against opposition parties, these are bogus. It doesn't happen. If you are corrupt, agency will work. If you are clean, nothing will happen. So, why bother? Just let the agencies work independently as per law. So, we are very clear about that.
And freebies, sir. I'll just take your last word.
Freebies are something which the Supreme Court has also taken cognizance of the issue. We are very much concerned. Prime Minister is also very, very concerned. But you must differentiate about what is freebies and what is welfare. Now, if you tell some voters that vote for me, I'll give you television set. Vote for me, I will give you this much money. You can't just distribute everything free. That is called freebies. But if you are building roads for the poor, if you are building bridges for a village, if you are making lots of projects to produce electricity, to produce lots of requirements, daily needs of the people, these are basically empowerment of the poor. So, empowering the poor through various welfare schemes are not freebies, but distributing something just free of cost is basically, in a blunt language, it's a bribe. You are bribing the voters to come to the power. Now, there are some governments, some chief ministers openly distributing things free of cost. Now, free means you are not distributing from your pocket. You are giving something free means you are taking from the people only. People's hard-earned money, they are paying taxes fully, and you are utilizing that for your vote bank politics. That is not good. So, offering various schemes, welfare steps, empowering the people must be clearly differentiated from offering and giving everything free just for the sake of getting votes. That is why Supreme Court has also taken cognizance and left it to us also. We will have to take a call.
Right, sir. On that note, thank you so much for joining us. Pleasure speaking to you, Mr. Minister.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Well, viewers, that's all we had for you in this edition. Thanks for watching. And stay tuned to Sansad TV. Namaskar.